Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Confidence Connection Show, where we share women's stories of confidence from all around the world to empower you to build your confidence too. So this week, I am joined by the lovely Kylie, coming to us live from Brisbane, and she is an author, a content creator, and facilitator for self-transformation. Her skills and services take a multidisciplinary approach based on the latest therapeutic modalities and brain science. In her Brisbane practice, she conducts one-on-one consultations and energy assessments to ascertain where clients are on their journey and then provides personalised guidance to help change the printout of their life. She also facilitates belief change, emotional release, and hands-on healing sessions to relieve stress and anxiety. So welcome, Kylie. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I know it's early for you. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you got to be where you are today?
Yeah, thanks, Bronte. I'm so honoured to be a guest on the Confidence Connection Show, and you're right, at 6 a.m. here, so I was, bounced out of bed bright and early just to be with you. So yeah, it's truly a pleasure.
Appreciate it.
So my story is a little long, so bear with me. But as far as I can remember, or like as early as I can remember, should I say, I battled anxiety and depression. And, even as a tiny little baby, I was highly sensitive. And my mum would say to me, would say that I used to projectile vomit, any time that I felt any tension in the room whatsoever. And throughout my childhood, it was just really plagued with this sense of doom and melancholy. And that just never left me. I grew up in a small country town, and I really thought that the issue had to do with the environment and the circumstances in which I'd grown up. My father was an absolute tyrant, so my home life was, very highly volatile, both emotionally and physically, and I just lived in constant fear of doing the wrong thing that would set off another rampage for almost no reason whatsoever. So, and then throughout school, I was also, picked on and bullied. I was an exceptionally gifted athlete, and that really resulted in, people just being really jealous and competitive, and that's just not in my nature at all. I'm not the competitive type. And then, it was my muscular physique and real lack of interest in dolls that never really made me a girly girl. So, and I just didn't fit in. I also really struggled with, had a bit of a learning difficulty. So then I struggled to keep up academically. I blush profusely anytime, someone sort of even highlighted me. So that was sort of another trait that made me stand out for the wrong reasons. And then in summer, my skin would turn bright red. It would then blister and peel. And in winter, because I was so anxious, I was covered in eczema, and I would just itch until my skin bled. And so, as I said, I just felt really I just didn't fit in. I felt, so alone and almost like an alien in this world. And I just was really awkward and as I said, stood out for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
So at the first opportunity, I decided to escape to the city, with the hope of controlling, taking control of my life. And I was really determined to finally find that safety and security in the world that I'd been, seeking and or really craving. And what I did was I just absolutely worked myself into the ground to purchase my first home, and to acquire all the things that, you think that you're going to make you feel happy. And by the time I reached my late 20s, I had absolutely everything that I, ever dreamed of. I had a flourishing career as a radiographer, a dream house, classic car, designer things, great social life, and a heap of friends. And, I was supposed to feel really happy and fulfilled, right? Except for I wasn't. I felt so hollow and deeply unhappy. And I truly wondered whether there was, something fundamentally wrong with me as a human being. It was horrible. And, particularly after achieving all those goals. So, being a logical person, I decided to go searching for what, I thought was missing. And I searched high and low for a good 16 years. I changed career about 4 or 5 times. I got married and then divorced. So Prince Charming didn't work. I mistook, I mistook a passion for a purpose and ended up almost broke both financially and emotionally. And then I went on the whole self-help journey, and I spent thousands on books, seminars, workshops, and retreats, trying to work out what was wrong with me. I found that the more I searched, the more lost, confused, and unhappy I became. And as a result, I just became, I lost absolutely any scare of confidence in myself and my ability, my ability to make decisions. And that's when I really hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
And then, some synchronistic events happened in which I ended up throwing all caution to the wind and going on, my first sort of holiday rather than working like a Trojan.
Yeah.
And that was in 2012. And that was when I had a life-changing travel adventure by visiting the USA and Mexico. I was actually in the Yucatan Peninsula for the ending of the Mayan calendar, which was so cool.
Oh.
And yeah,
So
in a
very
cenote with, it was wild. And it was during this holiday that I had the best and most synchronistic 6 weeks of my life. And it was the first time I experienced genuine joy. And my life, like that 6 weeks just flowed. Like it was nothing short of, it's a really long story, but it was truly nothing short of miraculous. But what I found was that just one thing would lead to the next, and it was just, as I said, the best 6 weeks of my life. And so after that travel adventure, I really came back down to earth with a crashing thud. I just knew I couldn't go back to my old life, but I also didn't know how to recreate that joy and the flow that I just experienced on that holiday in my day-to-day life. And of course, all I wanted to do was to go traveling again. But I knew that was purely escapism. I couldn't just keep traveling for the rest of my life. Maybe I should have become a travel, I don't know, a tour guide. So instead, I decided to sit down and actually deconstruct what had actually happened on my holiday to really understand, what had made it so special. And then I wanted to attempt to recreate that experience in my existing environment using, nothing else but the resources that I had on hand. So that's when I went into a period of voluntary self-isolation, which was way before, it became fashionable during COVID. And I began doing what I refer to as the inner work. And it was during this deeply self-reflective period that I finally actually stumbled across all the resources that taught me two fundamental principles. And it was this that allowed me to turn my life around in a matter of months.
Yeah.
And it was these principles that really changed the way I experienced life and then the trajectory of my career, which we'll get to, in a minute. But there were, as I said, two fundamental principles. So the first big aha moment came through learning that what was missing from my life was actually a sense of purpose. Yeah. And so by working my way through specific resources and activities, I was then able to uncover my purpose and embody my life's calling. And I can, wholeheartedly say that I no longer suffer from depression whatsoever. And instead my life, life now has direction, meaning, and it's just really fulfilling. Then the second aha moment occurred that, when I learned about the power of the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind, for anyone who's not aware of it, which I'm sure you probably all are, is really the database that records absolutely everything that's ever happened to us. And it really influences how we perceive life and the way we respond to the circumstances that unfold in our life. So when I learned to overwrite the subconscious programmings, subconscious, survival programs that were really holding me back in life, that was the key factor that allowed me to really that my life to really start to change very dramatically and quite quickly, because I wasn't being held back by those limiting beliefs and things. And as a result, my entire life just became so much richer, more colorful and joyous. I mean, it was kind of like black and white beforehand, and all of a sudden it was like this multicolor. And I also developed a real understanding of, who I am, what inspires me, and how I can contribute to the world. And it was through learning these two principles that I really started to develop this like unshakable inner strength and confidence. And as a consequence, I really no longer feel that I'm at the mercy of anything that life throws at me, and that included the pandemic. And I also really now trust in the way that my life's unfolding. I don't feel the need to like really control every aspect of my life as I did previously. I was a total control freak, and it truly feels good to be alive. And of course, because I had such a life-changing experience, all I wanted to do was share, everything that I'd learned with others so that they could really benefit from that, 2-decade-long self-discovery and personal transformation journey. And I really felt called. I wasn't sure how I would do it at first, but then I really felt called to design and build a website, and that website's aguideforlife.com. And I really wanted it to serve as a free online resource for others, so that others could just, tap in and find out, all the key information that helped me. And at that point, I really didn't feel like I had anything to share other than just here's all the information, go for it. And the site really is a condensed library that references, all the people and the specific resources that changed my life. And then as my knowledge and skills grew and I felt like I had more things to offer, I actually started to, attract a global clientele. And then, A Guide for Life really became, a hub for my work, as you mentioned before, as an author, content curator, and facilitator for self-transformation.
Yeah.
Again, as you mentioned earlier, in my Brisbane practice, I conduct one-on-one consultations and biowell energy assessments. And I also facilitate belief change, emotional release, hands-on healing sessions that help clients relieve stress and anxiety.
Yeah.
And when I'm not helping clients, I continue to focus on completing the Build a Life You Love workbook series. And that's a series of 7 workbooks in which I present all the information and tools that gave tools and techniques that gave me the confidence and the freedom to express myself across every aspect of my life. So what I really wanted to do was to get everything out of my head and into the workbook so that, again, everyone could have, the knowledge to help themselves. So the first 2 workbooks are now available, and I'm currently working on the third. And the first workbook, which is Find Your Purpose, Change Your Life, and it's a guide for uncovering your life's calling so that you can create a joyous, fulfilling, and meaningful life. And my second workbook is Imagineer Your Ultimate Future, and that's a guide to bridging the gap between your current reality and the life of your dreams. And that's where I am today.
Awesome. I'm like, you've just interviewed yourself. That was a great introduction, and really telling the full story and the full picture, which is awesome. And I think, those workbooks look awesome. It looks like the sort of thing that everyone needs to go and do, because you're so right, it makes such a difference. Finding your true purpose in life rather than, what you think society wants you to do. Which I feel like, so many people can relate to your journey in one way or another. I think so many people were that kid that was just, it's funny that we talk about, the kid that didn't quite fit in, but I was like, did any kid really fit it? Because like we are so different. It's like the school system is like, tick this box, this box, this box. But I'm like, I don't actually think, I feel like you're not average if you actually tick all the boxes, perfect boxes of the school,
It's so true.
We're all so different. And rather than school, I feel like school should be flexible to fit us rather than us trying to be flexible to fit school. It's really weird. And you don't I was a high achiever. I was more academically tick the boxes, but oh my gosh, the fitness side, no way, Jose.
Well, and that's it. And yet they make you run the 100 meters when you just gawky and your arms and legs are everywhere and you fall over in
Yeah.
front of everyone. That happened to me in my very first race, mind you.
Yeah. But it's
Yeah.
funny. I think everyone just gets a sense of that. And like the home life, everyone has different variations of what happened to them in their home life that affects them growing up. And, some people come out one way, some people come out another. And it's just really interesting that we're all, once you leave school, there's the box, as you say, the career, the house, the Prince Charming, the kids, like all work hard, like, work for 40 hours a week for 40 years. And then you'll have about 10, 20 years at the end, we can go do what you want. But by that point, you're old and you don't have energy. And it's like, none of this makes sense, right?
Exactly. And you're so right there, because the other sad part is that I see these people just, working even more than 40 hours a week, probably try 80 to 90. And then all they want to do, they put all of their money into their retirement and their savings for retirement. And then sadly, what can often happen is they get sick and then because they've actually got sort of nothing to live for, meaning like they don't have this focus. Like a lot of people, as when they leave their career, they just feel very lost, and it doesn't end up being the it's a bit like post exams. You go, I'm going to celebrate, and you just feel numb. You just go, and so that retirement just isn't half as grand as what this 20, 40-year plan has led you to believe. And sadly, I've seen a lot of people actually get sick and then pass away, like within a couple of years of retiring. And that's the last thing you want to do after putting all that hard work in. And it's funny, Bronte, because having found my purpose, I've probably never really, or I guess maybe because I'd sort of fallen into that pattern of you do this and this and this and this, I guess I probably did assume that I would retire at some point. But in finding my purpose, I just know there is no way I'm going to be retiring. I've just got so much to do, and I'll be doing what I do because I love it so much and it doesn't feel like work. I'll be doing it till my last breath.
I love that. And I think that's when you find that space where it doesn't feel like you're working, that's when you've made it, I reckon. And you're so right. I've noticed that too, that people that don't have hobbies or other things in their life apart from work do sadly pass away because there's nothing left in their life to be worth living for, which is really sad. And I can't believe it was crazy listening to your story and how long it took you to finally take a holiday, which again, so many people do. And I think I'm lucky that after I finished uni and went to my first career job that was in the first year, I was like, I have money, I'm going overseas. I was sent overseas for some work training, and I was like, I'm attaching a holiday to this. I was like, you're paying my flights. I'm like, do you mind if I detour over here? And they're like, yeah, you just pay the difference in between. And I didn't have much time, but I chucked 2 weeks in there, and I kind of was fortunate enough to have that life-changing moment first year of my career life, because I had the same experience. I'm like, this is living. Like,
wow.
And so took me a few years to get out of that 9-to-5 grind and become where I am now. But I was open to that, knew that was the place I wanted to be. Obviously, so thanks to the pandemic, I haven't gone and lived that travel whenever I want lifestyle, but I know that, I will be once it's all, for anyone that's listening from way overseas, we're still a bit closed in, and I know Australia is kind of opening up now, but we're a few months behind in New Zealand, but we will get there. But no, it's just interesting. And I love that, you share the truth that it took you 16 years to find your purpose, because again, people see like your workbook and like online things like this, and they think it can just be an overnight process. And I mean, hopefully it is. You can just take your workbook or something, or do one of my courses, and overnight you just find your purpose. But for a lot of people, it is going to take a lot of work, and thinking this is your purpose, walking down that path, and then being like, actually, no, that's not. My purpose is more over here. And, I think it's great that you're honest that it can take 16 years to truly find where you're supposed to be.
Absolutely. And it's kind of interesting because, although it took me that 16 years, I'd actually, as part of one of the activities in the workbook, I actually had a session with an individual who specializes in helping people identify their soul's purpose, and the session takes about an hour. And probably about it would have been a good 8 years before I actually finally accepted my purpose. She nailed it in that one session. And the thing is, it's one thing to be told what your purpose is, and it absolutely resonated with me in that moment. I was like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. And she described me in a way that was just, was far closer than I could have described myself. She truly knew me better than me. And as I said, it sounded amazing, but I really didn't know how to get from here to there. And it wasn't until I completed the other activities that I include in the book that I really started to because what happens is your calling, it's basically who you are. And there's evidence of it woven all throughout your life. And you've really got to ask the right questions and know where to look to really find it. But the clues are just they're absolutely there. There's no question about it. So I really needed to start to tease out that information and then start to really own it. So once I could see it within my life, that really made a big difference. And then obviously having the reassurance that that she'd sort of given me the themes of my life purpose, that really helped. But then it's also about, you've got to allow life to open these opportunities up for you. So you kind of maybe going off and thinking, right, I'm going to study X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to get there, and that's how it's going to happen. That's kind of like your will versus divine will. And usually what I find is that life actually, and particularly when you start to reprogram the subconscious mind and overcome those subconscious programs that are holding you back. And when you stop pushing and trying to make stuff happen, and are able to sort of live more present in the moment and follow the things that really light you up, that's when opportunities actually come to you. And that's when it's almost like the shortest path. You're actually doing less work, but it's the opportunities come to you, and it's a much quicker path. And it's, for someone who's so willing, so used to controlling their life and every aspect of it. And my background, aside from radiography, that's a whole other story, but I've been a tradie and a project manager and event manager. And so I just knew how to plan, there's step A, there was sort of there's A, B, C, and D options. And then I had counter moves for anything that happened within those options that didn't plan out. So I was just, my brain was just constantly thinking of, how can I solve this? How can I, how can I get to where I need? How can I meet that deadline? And I had to let all of that go and literally, learn to trust, the feelings in my heart, and to trust the universe guiding me. And it was so counterintuitive.
Yeah, I can totally relate. I'm very much like a planner, and this is the plan, and this is I'm following this line, this very linear line of this is what we're doing. And it is amazing once you start to be open to, sort of the intuition and the signs that come to you. It does make everything flow. I love, I can't remember exactly how it goes, but something that always resonates with me is something that Oprah says about listening to the whispers, what you're supposed to do, or the signs will whisper at you. And if you don't listen, they'll get louder and louder until it slaps you in the face. And it's like, no, over here. You come over here and do this. You're not on the right path. This is your path. And I've heard her say that multiple times. And then as I kind of pay more attention and make myself more open to things, that is so right. The hint of where you should be always comes just very subtly. And if you don't listen to it, eventually you'll get on that path usually. But you can get a full slap on the face before it happens, or you can take that first sign and be like, I'll go over here.
Exactly. It's much easier to do it the more gentle way than as you said, being slapped in the face.
Yeah. So what's just, give everyone a better sense of what you do with a guide for life. What makes your business different to what else is out there?
Yeah, well, I really believe in self-sovereignty, Bronte. And so rather than building a practice in which clients are reliant on me and my services, my aim is to really point clients in the direction of the resources that help me. So I
Yeah.
actually encourage clients to learn the modalities that will, I guess, to explore them first and then to learn them, to study them. And they're the modalities that I use both personally and professionally, in my practice. And then that way they've actually got the power to heal themselves and others. And so that's really, I guess, my point of difference. I'm not, I only want to see a client a couple of times or 3 times at the most. And when clients have a one-on-one session with me, we sort of look at where they're at in their journey, and I'll give them specific resources that they might find helpful in that moment, dealing with what's coming up for them. But I also, explain to them how they create their life, and then what sort of actions they're going to need to change to then change the printout of the life. And it really comes down to quietening the mind. If you can't quieten the mind, then you want to at least harness it in positive, productive ways, so you're not just spinning into that negativity all the time. And then you really want to practice emotional self-management, because it's that is a twofold factor, and it's about incorporating all the things that you love into your life, because they instantly raise your emotional vibration. But it's also about releasing the emotional baggage that's holding you back in life. And then the third element is looking about the story that you've created about life, the narrative, and actually learning how to shift subconscious beliefs so that you're changing that story. And then it's also the actions that you're taking, like what actions are going to lead to lasting positive change. Well, it's obviously, being mindful of your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, but it's also making sure that you're living 100% in alignment with who you truly are at all times. And it's not about just doing things out of guilt, fear, obligation, and even boredom. So it's about really being true to you. And I sort of explain that, and then I actually give them a framework within that then helps them to quieten their mind, practice emotional self-management, etc. And that just sets them up for the future, because they can I guess refer to all the modalities or practices that I list, but they can actually explore outside of that, because they know what to look for. They know that I've got to concentrate on my thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and actions, and I've got to do it in a holistic way. And if there's a course coming up that Kylie hasn't listed in her PDF, but it's about how to reprogram the subconscious mind using X, Y, and Z, it would be worthwhile exploring, because it could be something that I've not come across before.
Yeah.
And that, what works for you may not work for me. So, I list the things that I've found really useful, but there'll be other modalities that work for other people. But again, it's about taking that kind of framework and concept, and then, because you know what you need to look for, and then adapting it accordingly. So yeah, my whole business is really about empowering clients. And usually the only time I hear from clients is they want to give me an update, and then say thank you wholeheartedly for how I've helped them. So
awesome. That's so beautiful. And I love that. Kind of really sums up a guide for life. You're just a guide. Here's your map. You go find where you need to go, rather than being like, okay, sit down. This is what you need to do, like A, B, C, D. I love that kind of empowering them to find their own journey.
Yeah, because everyone's journey is completely unique, and only you know what's right for you. But if I can start to shift, shift that sense of needing, help from other people, and starting to tap into that inner voice, then, I've done my role. There's nothing more empowering than actually, shifting your awareness from your head into your heart, and then really listening to the whispers in your heart.
Yeah, awesome. And what advice would you give someone that hasn't found their life purpose yet?
Well, this might actually sound a little extreme, but I can honestly say that finding your life's purpose can literally be a matter of a difference between life and death.
Yeah.
And Viktor Frankl, who was a prominent Viennese psychiatrist and a Holocaust survivor, he actually made the observation, when he was in World War II in the concentration camp, that it was those that. Sorry.
Oh, no, carry on. I think I know where you're going, but yeah.
Yeah, that it was those that that actually survived the longest in the Nazi concentration camps, and even ended up surviving the war, were actually the ones that found they sought out a reason for living. They comforted others, they gave away their last piece of bread, and they were even envisaging, how they'd take care of their family and reconnect with their family, when the war was over. And as I can say, I wholeheartedly say that finding my purpose and embodying it was, the antidote for overcoming my battle with depression. So it's nothing more powerful than finding your purpose. And there's a big difference between passion and purpose, Bronte. Most people don't know the difference. A lot of people talk about following your bliss, and there's no question passion has a place in our life.
Yeah.
But it's about raising your emotional vibration. It's the things that you enjoy, and embodying your passions do instantly raise your emotional vibration. But they're mostly self-serving, and they can wane really, really quickly, which is why me going into the foray of spray metal finishes didn't last so long. It wasn't something that I wanted to do way past retirement.
Yeah.
Where your purpose, I define it as a combination of the gifts and talents that you were born with, the skills that you acquire throughout life, and the life experiences, particularly the challenges that allow you to serve others in a way that only you can. And this is your contribution to humanity. And it's this that gives your life fulfillment and meaning. So there's a big difference between passion, purpose. And when you know that, it just makes life decision-making so much easier.
Yeah, I can totally agree. I think that what I studied at uni and the career I started on is definitely more passion, and what I'm doing now is definitely more purpose. And I think a lot of people find that, I think when you find purpose, there's always, or what I observe, there always seems to be an element of service when you find your purpose.
Yes.
Whether it's direct or not, but when you come to a place where your passion is, like you said, quite self-centered, whereas your purpose often involves helping others in one way or another. So even like you said, what do you say, spray metal finisher, the person that is their purpose in life, they're doing that to help others rather than doing that because they like it for themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah. So thanks for sharing your story. I think everyone that watches this will take so much away from that and can relate to so many elements of your story. Now we'll dive into the questions that I ask every guest each week around the topic of confidence, because that's what we're here to do, to help people build their confidence. So what does confidence mean to you?
Bronte, I think it really means, having the freedom to be 100% yourself in every environment and in any situation. And it's really about, not feeling the need to hide any part of yourself whatsoever. And I'd say it's also having the unwavering belief in yourself, your capabilities, and your ability to make the right decisions, and not just for yourself, but for others too. So, for the greatest good of everyone.
Yeah,
So,
I love that. That was a brilliant definition of it.
Oh,
and
thank you.
I feel like you've already touched on this, but just to reiterate, how do you help people build their confidence?
Well, I really think that confidence boils down to and is a byproduct of two key factors. And the first is self-love.
Yeah.
And the second is overcoming your survival programming. That's so crucial. So self-love is really developed through building, an intimate relationship with yourself. And it's done through understanding, what's most meaningful to you. And then it's living 100% in alignment with who you are at your core. And overcoming your survival programs really means eradicating like your fears, doubts, negative self-talk, limiting beliefs, and sabotaging behaviors. And that really involves reprogramming the subconscious mind. And for me, what I do is I really arm clients both with this knowledge to share what it is that causes them to experience the life that they have. And then I actually introduce them to the right tools that will help them develop self-love, and overcome that subconscious programming. And that really gives them, the confidence to handle absolutely, anything that crosses their path.
Yeah. Awesome. And what would you say to someone who's wanting to build their confidence but doesn't know where to start?
Well, definitely my website, because it's a free resource. And as I said, I list, all the teachers that changed my life, as well as their work and the order in which I applied them. But I'd also, and obviously the workbooks too, but it's not all about me. The one book that that really changed, that has had such a big impact on my life, was Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way. And you would sort of think, well, the artist's way, that's got to do with, art and creativity. And I think it's really, it's got the wrong title, because it's one of the most powerful self-help books that I've ever come across. And it actually takes you on a 12-week journey of self-discovery, and it helps you discover like who you are and what really inspires you. And it really helped me find my inner voice and my identity. And it also really gave me the permission to really consider my needs, and then the confidence to start to set boundaries with others. So yeah, it's an amazing book. Have you read it, Bronte?
No, I haven't, but I have to add it to my list of,
Yeah.
I've got a big long list of books to
Yeah,
read. I will add it in there.
I bet. No, it's amazing. And yeah. And then she's got a few other books that kind of flow along in a similar theme, but it's really just, it's getting you to just go deeper and find out more and more about yourself. And that's what I love about it.
Awesome. And what's something you know now that you wish you knew when you were younger?
There's definitely the difference between passion and purpose, and also the power of the subconscious mind and how to reprogram it. If you learn those two things in life, I assure you cannot go wrong.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
To me, that whole process of self-transformation boils down to those two key principles.
Yeah, for sure. And what's the best advice you've been given, or your favorite quote to live by?
Well, I think you mentioned Oprah Winfrey earlier. So it's a quote by Oprah, and it goes something like this. And because I'm all about purpose, it goes, there's no greater gift that you can receive than to honor your calling. It's why you're born and how you become most truly alive.
Yeah, that's so true. I love her. I love, like, people don't take her seriously, but I'm like, she's got so much wisdom. I just love.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
And you've already shared. So next question is, what is your favorite book and or podcast? You've already shared your favorite book. So do you have any favorite podcasts?
Well, to be honest, I really found that like not one person had all of the answers. And each of my teachers gave me, they're all specialists in their own right, and they all gave me, a different piece of the puzzle. So, I'd really, my website lists all the teachers that changed my life. And as I said, the specific resources and the products, and the time and the stage in which I applied them. And then the back of my workbooks, I actually, list all of the resources that influenced me understanding that stage of the workbook. And there's by far, there's a plethora of books, podcasts, online events, seminars, workshops, YouTube videos, and even movies that you can reference there. So as far as podcasts go, sorry?
So just go to your website.
Yeah. And as far as podcasts go, it's funny because like I watch so much on YouTube. Look, after that journey to the Yucatan, I started with Greg Braden because I was actually part of, like, he was actually one of the the main people that were holding that event, and so I started with his work because I found it so inspiring. But it was kind of more on talking about, like, the man ruins and who we are and why we're here and all of that kind of stuff. So it was kind of on a different level. And my favorite podcasts are definitely into ancient megalithic structures and that kind of stuff. But I started with Greg, and Greg's deeply spiritual, and he he instructs a lot, with regards to self-transformation. And then I moved on to Bruce Lipton and then Rob Williams. So, Greg's a great start. Bruce Lipton's amazing. Rob Williams. Yeah.
Awesome.
So many.
Awesome. Lots
Oprah.
Yes. Yeah. And do you have any favorite people you like to follow online to help people, make their news feed a more positive place?
Well, again, I can't help but go back to all the teachers, that changed my life. And I'm always looking for someone new. There's no question about that. But I recommend, when people find someone that they really resonate with and they're really inspired by their content, I really recommend that they start their day with that content. I start my day listening to that, over a cup of tea, and it really sets your mood for the entire day. So, honestly, any of the teachers that I reference, and you'll start to get the picture of why they're important. So,
yeah, awesome. And where can people find you and connect with you? Obviously, your website, but anywhere else?
Yeah. My website, aguideforlife.com, and in the top right-hand corner, I've actually listed my email address and my mobile number, so people can connect with me directly. They don't need to fill out the contact form.
Yeah, cool. That's awesome. And do you have any final words before we go? Anything you wanted to share that you haven't yet already?
Not really. I think it really comes back to that. That if you really want to start to change the printout of your life and reach your highest potential, it really comes back to like really becoming mindful of your thoughts, practicing emotional self-management, overcoming self-limiting beliefs and making lifestyle choices and taking actions that are in alignment with who you are. And I'd like to throw this out to your audience, Bronte, that if people people are interested, they're more than welcome to actually email me, and I'd be happy to share the PDF that I give all my clients that helps them change the printout of their life. So
awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. It's been such an inspiring morning. I hope everyone that watches this I'm sure they will take away so much for this. And thank you for being, for sharing so much of your journey and showing how, empowering people to take control of their life, find their purpose and find the path and the direction they need to go on. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much to everyone who's been watching this morning, and I will see you all next week.
Thanks, Bronte. It's been a pleasure to be here, and thank you, everyone.